Folks, welcome back to So Bad It's Good, presented by Betches Media. So obviously the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni story has not gone anywhere. In fact, it might have intensified, especially over this past week. As you know, I did like a 3-part special right before New Year's, right around Christmas time in the holidays, and I had to dip out because of sinus surgery. And so much has happened since then. I have kind of changed my opinion somewhat, or at least there is such evidence out there that I question some of my initial speculation and going through the initial filing from Blake Lively and her team and going over the New York Times article and complaint. There are so many facets, but Baldoni and his team with his lawyer Brian Friedman and Wayfarer Studios have hit back with a vengeance and has so many little pieces of proof that sway, I think, a lot of our thinking to a different way. It's so much to keep track of. So we have an expert with us here today. She is half of the duo Pop Apologists, which their podcast, if you don't listen to and follow, what are you even doing saying that you like pop culture? This is a go-to spot. Now, we don't have Chan with us today, but we have the one and only Lauren Atkinson. Lauren, welcome back to the show.
Oh, Ryan, thank you so much for having me back. It's a perfect time to get back together because, as you were saying, there really is so much to get into here. And I think it's a national emergency at this point. Everyone cannot keep their eyes off these lawsuits.
No, I literally, I feel like I'm scared that so many people have opinions on them. I'm scared that Trump's going to get involved and tweet something out on Truth Social of like, it's about Baldoni. He's got my support all the way. Like, I'm scared for that moment because you know it might happen.
Honestly, I forgot we have a new president at this point. That's how wrapped up I have been in this situation. To be honest, I would love nothing more than Donald Trump getting in the mix here like he did with Kristen Stewart back in the day.
Remember that? You guys, if you don't remember, he tweeted something out that Kristen Stewart treated Robert Pattinson like a dog. And it was so insane. This is before, the initial presidency. And the fact that Trump, even at that point, was, tweeting out his opinions on pop culture and the movies, really, you thought it was like a joke account, but it was his actual account.
A golden time for Twitter, truly.
The last golden time, if it were. So you just did this amazing breakdown, 2+ hours getting into the 178-page filing that Justin Baldoni and his team hit us with in this past week, which I think just kind of blew this wide open in a different way because I think, as you guys were speaking about, this thing is a page turner. You talk about something that I want a movie made out of this complaint because it is so juicy and it is written like a thriller. You agree, right?
Oh my gosh. So I got a condensed version of it. To read, and I was looking through it and I just thought, I just want to read the actual lawsuit. And it was honestly 9 p.m. before the day we were going to record. So I go to the actual lawsuit. I'm up till 1 a.m. reading all 200 pages and I was gripped. It was a page turner. It's so good.
I mean, he is including full text conversations between him and Blake Lively. We've got celebrities involved, their names being dropped. It's a real roller coaster. And to take it from a different perspective, where we were at in December, where that New York Times article hit, and then I thought this was a story about PR campaigns and negative PR campaigns. And I really, truly, going through that complaint, said, I do believe that there was a paid attack plan on Blake Lively. And I was pretty confident of that. And this really changes the game that Justin Baldoni might have been telling the truth all along, that this was a star trying to take control of the movie It Ends With Us and assert artistic control by any means necessary.
Yeah, exactly. The disturbing part about his lawsuit is it really has a lot of receipts. So it really shows that Blake Lively was blatantly lying. And that, for me, destroys all of her credibility. When I was originally reading through her complaint against Justin, I took what she said at face value. I did not assume that she would just bold-faced lie. And unfortunately for her, in his bombshell lawsuit, he actually has the proof that she was not being forthright in many ways that are extremely damning. And so we have pulled a Mitt Romney at Pop Apologists and gone from being completely Team Blake to flip-flopping to Team Justin.
Well, it is interesting because I always tell the audience it's not black and white. There's so much gray area, and especially when it comes to any kind of artistic process. Like some of this reads like a pulp romance novel where it is tacky, it's cringe, but that
Hmm.
is, unfortunately, sometimes that is the artistic process. Like being a failed actor myself, it is one of those things that when you're in this, you're in the war trying to get this thing made and you're kissing each other's ass so intensely. And we see how, like, you almost see how stars like Blake Lively are created because there is such ass kissing involved at every level where Justin Baldoni is massaging her ego through all of these
Hmm.
email and texts.
Yeah, managing her ego seems to be a job he didn't ask for, but he certainly got on the production of It
He's
Ends With
good at
Us.
it, by the way.
And you understand why psychologically she became the person, like you said, she became because she's, getting all this BS driven her way. She's getting all this flattery. And so I can almost understand how in her mind it might be a little bit upsetting or a surprise when he doesn't actually want any of her edits or write or her her writing in the script, her rewrites, excuse me. He doesn't want any of that, but he's like also thanking her so much for the contribution and being so effusive. So you understand exactly how these like mega celebrities become megalomaniacs.
Times out of 10, it's a male like asserting that dominance in Hollywood of trying to
Mm.
rewrite things or like kind of a hostile takeover of a movie set or a director's vision. So this aspect of it isn't about being a woman, but I do find it interesting that Blake Lively used every kind of pivot and move to almost get Baldoni to feel sad for how Hollywood has treated her over the years.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have heard that Ryan has a pattern of doing this. And so part of me wonders if this is her taking a page out of Ryan's playbook and really thinking, okay, well, maybe he's allowed to get away with bad behavior on sets because he's a man. And so I should be able to overtake entire productions as well.
Well, and not just Ryan Reynolds. Somebody that we're equally fans of, Miss Taylor Swift, gets name dropped in this. Or a big superstar that is obviously Taylor Swift. She gets dropped in this complaint so many times. I feel, and she's another person that, like Taylor Swift, obviously has earned her stars and stripes to be where she's at, and she's earned that power. And I would imagine. That's a little different than where Blake Lively is in her career. And Ryan Reynolds also, not just in movies, but Ryan Reynolds has his own marketing and advertising firm. Like this is part of
Hmm.
what he does with everything. So it is interesting to see if this complaint is to be believed that these two people tried to talk Blake into fighting for her artistic vision when potentially that was just screwing somebody else's vision completely over.
Yeah, we talk about this a lot. Like Blake just needs to buy her own rights to a movie she really wants to make
Yeah.
and be her own producer and writer and do it all. She needs to take on all of these roles and she could with her star power, with her connections, obviously with her resources. So it's a little baffling that she wanted to do it, through the back door, go into someone else's production and take it over.
But that's the thing that's driving me crazy, Lauren, is that why did Blake do this? Why did she, if there was so much evidence, so much back and forth, was it just counting on that Justin Baldoni would never go the distance, like Lisa Barlow would say, and release all of the text messages and emails? And she tried to make this story about a negative PR campaign against her and using smear tactics. And now it is a whole different story coming out where I'm like, Blake Lively is not going to get the opportunity to ever direct a film in the future.
Right. It does seem like her career is going to be seriously jeopardized by all of this because who would want to work with her? And what studio is going to want to sign on given what a liability she was? She basically blackmailed Sony and said, hey, if you don't choose my version of this film, which scored 15 to 20 points lower than Justin's across every category. She said, if you don't show my movie and promote or put out my movie, I'm not going to promote this film, which is a death knell to the film. That is, I mean, it is just bad behavior. Doesn't even begin to describe it.
Well, I mean, and just to point out, It Ends With Us, based on the Colleen Hoover book, it was a hit. This movie
Mm-hmm.
was so hard to market, obviously, because it deals with DV and this very serious topic, and they still managed to make over $335 million worldwide. So this is a hit that shouldn't have been a hit, and now it is going to be remembered for all of the wrong reasons. The actual plot of this book, or even any issues this book brings to the light, is completely overshadowed now by Lively and Baldoni, and I find that interesting. And something I wanted to get your opinion on is Wayfarer, the studio that Justin Baldoni is partnered with, they have the rights to the sequel, the book, the sequel of this book. And people are saying, oh, Blake did this so she could get the rights to that book and direct it. But I think at this point, the property is ruined.
Yeah, the property is ruined. It's over. There's not going to be a sequel. I mean, Colleen Hoover has deactivated her Instagram.
What did you think of that?
I just think that she wants to, she does not want to be part of this narrative anymore. And I feel bad for her. The entire message of this book has been superseded by this drama. And I think going back to, what you were saying in terms of Blake didn't actually really care about the message of this film.
She didn't even read the book.
She didn't even read the book. She really just cared about getting her way at every turn. And it doesn't matter for her what cost that it might take for her to get her way. And so I really think what happened here is she saw the really bad publicity against her and decided the only way I'm going to somehow get out of this is if I make Justin my public scapegoat. And he's the excuse for why I have made all these bad decisions. And it really backfired in a massive way.
I mean, it backfired in such a weird, massive way that I feel like it has this ripple effect, obviously, to billionaire friends like Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Swift, which then you have this heartbreaking discussion or argument with yourself going, Taylor Swift would never support behavior like this. Taylor Swift, she just must not have had the knowledge. That Taylor must not have known the full story, because why would she side with Blake Lively in this, especially as an artist?
I think that my sister and I, as hardcore Swifties, are having a true dark night of the soul as we have our faith crisis in Taylor Swift right now. And my only explanation, how I can sleep at night, is that truly is that Blake Lively is a different person to Taylor Swift than she is to Leighton Meester, than she is to publicists and journalists she's working with. I think Blake is one of these people that is charming to people who she sees as above her or adjacent to her, but anyone even remotely beneath her, she treats really badly. And there's so much evidence of this bad behavior. It's really reprehensible. And for me, there's not a lot of room for doubt here.
Well, and that's what's so sad is that there's so much video evidence already with Blake Lively against her in previous press junkets and things like that, where she just kind of didn't treat the interviewer with kindness. And I think, you can paint anybody out to be anything, but it does seem like there is a pattern of behavior with Blake specifically that you have to take a look at, especially after this complaint. Now, Justin Baldoni is fighting such an intense PR campaign where the lawsuit itself, because they're fighting for damages, and I think they're even putting in emotional distress, right?
Yeah, so it's 400. They're suing for 400 million, and then plus monetary damages for emotional distress. And also, this is per Google, so I can't confirm this amount, but Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, their net worth is estimated to be 350 million. They're really looking to take this couple to the cleaners.
Well, I thought Ryan Reynolds was close to billionaire status due to his investment and his advertising company. So I thought Reynolds himself was worth way more. But, I also want to point out is that Baldoni, you would say, how is he able to have this kind of legal strength through Brian Friedman and everything that's come out, is that he has a billionaire backer through Wayfarer, correct?
Yeah, he absolutely does. One of the co-founders of Wayfarer is a billionaire. And this kind of brings us to one of the lies that Blake told in her complaint. Is she said that billionaire co-founder was on set during this scene that she was nude from the chest down and only had a thin strip of material covering her genitalia. And she said that billionaire backer, who was almost never on set, just happened to be there on that day, painting this person to be a total creep. Well, in Justin's lawsuit, they say she actually was clothed. It was not just a thin piece of material. She had full briefs, black briefs on, had something over her chest as well, was actually covered. And also lo and behold, this billionaire, he wasn't even there for part. He was there that day, but not during that scene. He had no desire to be a creep for Blake Lively, but he was certainly the wrong person to paint in such a gross light, because he's not going to want to back down from this, and they want to go to trial, which is really crazy. They do not want to settle this. I mean, we're just getting started. It did not end with them, that's for sure.
Is there any possibility this is a jury trial? Because if so, I'll move to wherever they filed. They filed in New York, right?
Oh, is there any possibility? I mean, I don't know in terms of what jurisdictions do a jury trial, but I can tell you from the way that they're going about this, they want this to receive as much publicity as possible. So if they can, they will. I mean, look at Justin. He left LA. He's getting paparazzi photoed in Hawaii. That's obviously all set up. They do not want this to go out of the news cycle. They want, a light shown on this.
It was really wild. And you just think about like we just talked about Colleen Hoover deactivating, is that imagine this, you actually write a book and you get it published first off, which is impossible. And then it takes off. And then you all of a sudden are just this huge author. All of your books are hitting. And then Hollywood comes knocking, which is huge. This is your first kind of feature in Hollywood. And it turns out to be the worst experience ever. She already has the rights sold to her next project, which I think might star Anne Hathaway, if I'm not mistaken. But it has got to leave such a bad taste in her mouth, and she has got to be miserable, because Colleen Hoover, if you know her, she loves Bravo, she loves pop culture, she followed me, she probably follows you guys, so I could imagine this is a nightmare. And I do want to say, she wasn't on set every day, so her witnessing maybe a certain version of Blake is different than maybe what Justin experienced with Blake. Or am I cutting her too much slack?
No, honestly, I think that Blake has hoodwinked Colleen. I think the cast, I think Colleen Hoover, I think she has bullshitted all of them. And this is why I think this. First, there's a text message from Isabel Ferrer to Justin that says, "Thank you so much for creating such a safe environment for me on set. Like, it was the perfect first experience." A very, very sweet, sincere message. And he writes back and he's like, you're going to go so many great places and yada, yada, yada. So anyway, they had a great rapport and relationship.
And that's the one that played young Blake Lively's character.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. That was who played the young Lily in It Ends With Us. So it isn't until when they're marketing the film, it isn't until she spent some time with Blake that all of a sudden she completely ices out Justin and stops talking to him. And for me, it doesn't make any sense that she would send those messages out of the blue about what a great guy he was if she had witnessed all this creepy behavior on set. And then, that just doesn't track for me. And so when it comes to like Colleen, like Ryan Reynolds, I actually think they all believe what Blake has told them. And I think they have kind of, just as we did when we first got her lawsuit, they've a little bit been taken for a ride with Blake's accusations.
Is it almost like Hilaria Baldwin and Alec Baldwin? Like Alec was like, "Gee, God, I should have checked where you were at. You're Boston? I've stood up for you this whole time." Like, is there this? And also then you have to go down this path of, does Blake Lively believe her own bullshit? Does she believe, because Lauren, the thing that keeps popping out of my mind is the 17-line item thing for Blake to come back to work after the strikes, where it was said, Baldoni cannot mention having any conversation with Blake Lively's dead father, because in that document, he said he had come up and he had communicated with Blake's dead father, which I thought was, to me, the creepiest part of that entire thing. And so then it was more easy for me to believe these things about Justin after hearing that specific thing. But like, are they saying this 17-line item that supposedly Wayfarer and Blake and all of these people agreed upon doesn't actually exist?
No, they're not. Is Justin's attorney saying that document doesn't exist?
Yeah, like, didn't they all sign this to come back to work, which would be Justin acknowledging that there was an uncomfortable situation that Blake was experiencing?
So this is a great question. So they're not saying that this list didn't exist. What they're saying is that it was created out of thin air, essentially as a threat, to say, just so you know, if this goes sideways in any way, and if I don't get my way here, this is what I will accuse you of. And there's emails back and forth between the producers and between the studio, and they're saying she's asking for an intimacy coordinator. There's always been an intimacy coordinator. She's asking for all of these things. She's asking for a nudity writer. We've been asking her to sign her nudity writer. Why is she asking for that? So everything that she said in that 17 part list was essentially a false accusation, according to them. And they really do have some solid receipts. Like, she says in there that she wants no more mentioning of Justin Baldoni's addiction to pornography. And when we saw that, we were like, that's really creepy. Why is he talking about his
And by the way, he's
addiction?
gone on record having spoken about it in the past.
Yeah, and in his lawsuit, what his attorneys say is that there came up a discussion about pornography, and she opened the conversation and said she had never seen it, and he said, "I think that's wonderful," and he shared that he once had a pornography addiction, and like you said, in his book, he's written that he was shown it at a young age. It's something he grappled with, and it was a moment of vulnerability that was then turned on him like a knife, and used against him, and made it seem like he brought that up to be creepy, and brought up his porn addiction to be creepy. And
which, by the way, it kind of works because it did when you're reading that initial document, it does come off as creepy. You're like, there is a pattern of behavior from Baldoni painted by these documents where it was easier to believe Blake's side of it, before reading this 178 page filing.
No, absolutely. And we were firmly Team Blake before his complaint before his lawsuit was filed, and we read through everything. But the other thing I will say is, in the video that his lawyers released, right? You can see where Blake lied. Blake said that
So guys, what she's talking about is this week, you probably have already seen this, but they released an unedited clip of the dance scene that was supposedly filmed without audio. Baldoni released the unedited footage, which had audio. And what did Blake claim in this scene? And then what did we actually see? Or what did you think you were seeing?
Thank you so much, Ryan. Sorry, I should have set that up better. I appreciate it.
No.
Yeah, I assume everyone else has a PhD in this case at this point.
Yeah, but everybody's like, I have a full-time job. I can't do this. Yeah.
So she alleged that he was very creepy and that he would go out of character into basically being himself. And he told her that she smelled so good that he dragged his lips across her collarbone in an unimprovised, way, basically as himself. And this sounded really awful, right? Then when you watch the video, you see that she refers to herself Tanner, and he's like, I think, it smells good. And he doesn't, his lips don't even touch her neck. There's no dragging his lips across her. Also, she when the scene is over, you watch him completely turn off Ryle. You watch him go out of character. Yeah. Oh, and he goes so cold towards, just professional, just completely aloof, like disinterested. He was acting. I honestly think that she blurred the lines between who was Lily and who she was. And and I think,
Yeah, we're going to get into that in a second, but I do want to, first off, just because Wayfair was the studio, but Sony distributed, Sony's a huge company. How did we get permission to release this 9-minute clip yesterday? And also on top of that, big news happened yesterday where Baldoni's team said, we're also creating a website where there is going to be more video, more stuff. No. I was like, oh, yes. I was like, is this like OnlyFans for like directors? But they threatened the release of this. And then yesterday afternoon, you got Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds' team firing back with trying to get a gag order placed on Friedman because of this. So this just happened yesterday afternoon, and we have not heard back about the gag order yet. But I'm like, they're going to put up a website with more, they're going to, this isn't, you guys, if you follow Hollywood, this is insane. To have, it's not insane for it to happen, but it's insane for it to be this public.
There's one, I feel bad because I'm so Team Justin now. But for me, it's like there's one side who wants to present the receipts and the screenshots, the timeline. They want to present fucking everything, okay? And there's one side who is giving no evidence, giving no receipts, and wants to shut the other side up. I think that says a lot.
It really does. And you almost... I don't know. It's like because you want to root for the woman in this situation. You really do, because it painted such a clear picture of maybe power dynamics gone astray. But then now you also start then telling this story of Justin Baldoni, of this dude that has obviously been a working actor, but this was like a big break. This is a big break for him to be a director of a movie, a studio film. This is like setting up the rest of his career, and to be taken down in this way, but also now to be fighting back. In a sense, there are damages here because, his name will be attached to this for the rest of his career, period.
Yeah, I will say, I think that if it had gone Blake's way, she would have completely decimated his career. And this was his big break. I mean, yeah, he'd been on Jane the Virgin, but did anyone really know who Justin Baldoni was before, 6 months ago?
I did, because he used to come into the acting studio I worked at, and he was super nice. I said that. I said that on my initial. But by the way, stars are super nice. There's some real people that are like really nice, but that are really assholes behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. So, take that with a grain of salt. But I will say he was nice to just everybody, or at least in my experience.
Yeah, no, I think that he had the most to lose here, but I do think with the way this is going, she is going to be the one that ultimately loses. And I think that he will go on to have huge projects. I think this has completely catapulted his entire profile. And I think people are really rooting for him.
Definitely. To what you were speaking of earlier, there is this, and as a pop apologist / historian,
yes,
we also, there's also like rumors, like the rumors, and there are these things that are behind the scenes where you start to speculate. Like you said, did Blake Lively get a little too lost in the sauce and potentially blur the lines? And the text messages and emails at times seemed, from Blake's end, mildly flirtatious, and that's where some of the cringe came in terms of like, the Khaleesi line, and you'll benefit from me being a Khaleesi. And there was like, her joking about her suppositories. I mean, it's just such weird things that almost through a lens you could read as boundary crossing. In business could be boundary crossing. In Hollywood, it's probably a little more normal, unfortunately. But speak to that a little bit more of, do you think that Blake started to potentially develop feelings for Baldoni, and that's where Ryan Reynolds stepped in even further?
Yeah, I think that, back to the really quick on the suppository.
Really quick. I can't let that pass.
I can't. It was a big drama in her in her complaint that he used the word sexy to describe her outfit. And I find, to describe an outfit for the character, and she thought that was inappropriate. And yet she's, referencing her anus to him, to her boss. She's definitely blurring some lines there. And I think that if you read these text messages, there is an effusive quality to them that reminds me of someone a little besotted with the other person. And they don't seem entirely professional. And so I think that there could be a world where Blake Lively fell hard for Justin Baldoni. And I think that this could be some sort of either conscious or subconscious retribution for him clearly not being interested, whether he overtly spurned her advances or she just didn't see, saw that her ardor, that she saw that her feelings were unrequited. I don't know.
Or in my soap opera mind, it's that Ryan Reynolds takes a notice that my wife is acting a little differently towards me. I need to actually see what's going on here and insert dominance. So that's where my reality show mind comes into a little bit more, was it personal on Ryan's level? Because then we have the Deadpool character of Nice Pool, where it's obviously making fun of Justin Baldoni. He even talks the one line about monetizing women's right for a podcast, which is obviously Justin Baldoni. So it was very personal for Ryan Reynolds, because I think when Ryan jokes about something, that's a big tell for Ryan Reynolds specifically that it really bothers him.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And there's also the moment where Ryan said to one of the executives at WME, he sees him at an industry event and he asks him why they're representing a sexual predator, referring to Justin Baldoni. So is it a situation
by the way, WME was like, That literally could be anybody that we represent. What are you talking? Like that literally could be. By the way, that's but I'm saying in Hollywood, it's more common than not. Unfortunately, yeah.
They're like, why? Wait, I'm sorry. Is your question why do we only represent sexual predators? Because we're the only people in this business.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. No, it's so true. I feel like when it comes to Ryan, I think that either it's your soap opera fantasy. He has this huge personal vendetta against Justin because Justin threatened, his wife's affections. Or I think that he believes Blake. He actually believes that that Justin was so creepy. And because for me, I feel like if he didn't believe it and he was just he knows Blake is histrionic. He's not gonna, he's gonna placate her, he's gonna manage her, but he's not going to bring up to another professional and colleague these accusations. In fact, he'll be embarrassed by them. Yes. So something's off there.
Yeah, so I am curious of the conversations that are happening around that household at the moment, because they really are in the shit right now, to unfortunately use a horrible word. There is so many moving pieces to this, but through pop culture, like terms of Hollywood relationships, you do have to take into account that there are on-set romances as well. And also there's been rumors about both of, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds through the years. I mean, I remember rumors about Blake and Leo and Blake and Ben Affleck on The Town. And that's kind of horrible to put on a woman, but those rumors are there for men as well. And you look at the relationships Ryan Reynolds had with Alanis Morissette and Scarlett Johansson. There's both. So if you're looking at it from that angle, there's a lot of examples.
I mean, wasn't Brian married to Scarlett Johansson when he met Blake Lively on set?
So. Yeah, I believe so.
I believe they divorced 6 months after Blake and Ryan met on set or filed for divorce. So if my pop culture history serves. And so I think that a lot of these, I think that a lot of these showmances are very common. And so you're right. There could be a world where he's like, I know what goes down. I know my wife's acting oddly. And then maybe
there a paranoia factor there?
And maybe to save their marriage, they form this common enemy, which is no, this never happened. Actually, he was just creepy. And that's what we're going to tell ourselves.
Yes, yeah. By the way, Baldoni is our safe word from here on out in any kind of romantic. You guys did a good dramatic reading of some of the pieces of this filing, but just for the audience, if you haven't read it, there was a situation in where Blake Lively rewrote the rooftop scene and was obviously very proud of it and sent it to Justin. And he wrote something like, also was working on the rooftop scene today. I really love what you did. It really does help a lot. Makes it so much more fun and interesting. And I would have felt that way without Ryan and Taylor, obviously Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Swift. You really are a talent across the board. Really excited and grateful to do this together. And then Blake responds, that's very appreciated and means a lot. I'm deeply inspired by the film we're going to make outside of the success of this book. We, kind of going on and just kissing his ass. The moment that excited me the most the other day was when you said you're not funny. You are going to kill that rooftop scene. And it just talks about wanting, like, just mutually kissing each other's ass. But then she goes on to say, and they black out Taylor's name. As for Taylor, I don't know why they blacked it out here, but they didn't black it out on the other page. Did you notice that?
Yeah, that was interesting. It seemed like there was a third person involved. That there was some director that they're referencing.
I know. It's Sean Levy.
Okay.
Who did, I would imagine, or allegedly, I would imagine it is Sean Levy because Deadpool and Wolverine happened, and we also have tons of photographs of them going to football games together with Sean, Ryan, Taylor, and Blake.
Gotcha. Yeah.
If I were to guess, that would be my guess.
For some reason, I think Sean's name is redacted then, but not Taylor's. Weird. Yeah.
But she says, I'm the luckiest MFer on the planet to have them as my dance moms level stage moms. They are embarrassingly effusive. That said, they're also my most trusted partners and the people I go to first with anything creative I touch. And I'm the person they each go to first. That reciprocal creativity and support has been one of my life's greatest and most fulfilling gifts. When they loved and signed off on the pages, she's referring to her version of this scene, I felt good to send them to you. They asked what you thought specifically after. They checked in so many times. I told them you laughed laughed a bunch, and you said it will probably be a blend, but you appreciate my passion so much, which of course didn't feel great for me or them to have my passion be praised instead of any specific contribution or even just that you didn't like the pages, which was fine also. So she is fully guilting him at this point.
Yeah, you'll see this in a lot of the messages. And you also see it in the video too. She needs him to respond exactly how she wants him to respond. So she needs him to love her rooftop scene and replace his own, and replace the originally written rooftop scene with her scene. Otherwise, it's not good enough. And guess what? She's going to call in Ryan and Taylor to ambush him in person to pressure him about this. And going to the video, sorry, just sagging to the video really quick.
Please.
She says, talking about her and Ryan, that they constantly talk, they are always talking. And he says, you guys are so cute. I think it's totally cute that you guys do that. And she goes, it's more than cute. Like she just needs,
sorry.
It's laughable. It's ridiculous.
It's magical. It's more than cute. It's magical and it's legendary. And it must be determined legendary by you, Justin Baldoni, a TV star.
She just requires a level of praise that is it's psychotic.
Well, it's stereotypical Hollywood actor-actress when you see them in movies, like playing an actor. It's always that, like, whether it be the old film Soap Dish, which I love with Sally Field, there's a way that it's always joked about how a star is treated. This is where the jokes come from, because there's this huge element of truth on how a star needs to be treated. I remember when I would come to Hollywood on like summers during college. And I remember I worked on a movie called The Cell with Jennifer Lopez way back in the, way a long time ago. And I remember being there as an extra, and we heard she didn't come to set that day and just didn't come because she didn't like her hair. And just didn't come to work that day. And you know how much money it takes for like a day of, we're like, holy moly, like people asserting that kind of power. I remember Tom Cruise on Minority Report. Steven Spielberg directed that movie. I remember him, huge star, all of a sudden we're shooting at this mall in Topanga Canyon, and all of a sudden around like 5 o'clock, he's like, I'm done for the day. Gotta go. And Spielberg was like, what? Like, it was this really weird moment, because you're like, these are millionaires and the top of their careers. And you can still tell like, oh, that's a little weird. Like you can even see Spielberg in that moment thought it was a little weird.
Mm-hmm. No, the way that she was a diva, and I know that term is a little loaded, but I think there was some serious bad diva behavior where she required them to bring the entire wardrobe to her, pack it up on trucks in Manhattan, and drive it to her penthouse rather than her driving or taking the 15-minute journey to where it all was stored in Manhattan. It was 15 minutes away from her apartment, but no, it all had to get packed up and brought to her. That is just a level of behavior that I find to be repulsive and honestly rude to her colleagues and disrespectful of their time, because it's just so unnecessary.
Blake Lively, I consider, a star in some sense, but I don't consider, no. I don't want to, God, I'm trying not to sound like an ass. Like, no, but you know what I'm saying is that if you go by just straight statistics, box office numbers, she has never been a box office draw. Like I think she's a fantastic, like no joke. I think she's a fantastic actor. I don't think she has been a draw thus far in terms of bringing box office performance to a film, which is how you get films greenlit. So this was a huge opportunity for Blake as well, I thought. And it's just sad that it's like this is blown for her as well by potentially her own behavior.
No, this is exactly what we were saying in our episode, that we were just so surprised that she could demand so many things, and that really Sony, the entire studio of Sony, cowered in Blake Lively's presence. Like, to your point, we knew that she was the sister to the Traveling Pants. She starred in Gossip Girl. She's been in some movies. She's married to Ryan Reynolds. We did not know what power she commanded, that she could make an entire studio cower in fear. It's very bizarre.
I mean, between this and Madam Web, Sony has had a horrible last year. I mean, just disaster after disaster. But it is interesting. And then you talk about Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. You know, she brought so much personal stuff, personal friends, weaponizing friends against Baldoni. You know, you had the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants cast unite in an Instagram post in support of Blake. And I just wonder, have any of these people that did these posts in December come out since? Like, because
So,
we even had the male star of It Ends With Us, not Baldoni, but what's the other gentleman's name, the actor?
oh, I
Oh,
don't,
he's
I don't know.
he's in a movie with Sydney Sweeney now, I was just talking about, but he even kind of supported Blake and posted the initial New York Times article on his Instagram.
So Gwyneth Paltrow listened to our episode and then she went live on Instagram saying now she's Team Justin. No, I'm just kidding.
I was like, wait. I was like, Lori, Gwyneth Paltrow. I was like, Gwyneth Paltrow's listening to you. I'm like, holy moly. I
No,
can see it.
because she came out Team Blake, right? So after Blake filed her complaint, Gwyneth posted that she was, wanted some Blake Brown beauty products, giving a tacit endorsement of Blake. And I think that all these people, again, have just been bamboozled by Blake's side of the story. And so it makes sense to me that they were all Team Blake when she filed her complaint, because most of us were at that time as well.
Completely. As a woman in the entertainment space, I mean, is this personal for you in a sense where is there anger involved at any point where it's like, oh, this is actually setting us back in terms of being respected in these really high powered positions?
I mean, I think that the way that it really bothers me is more just in how much it's setting back women who want to come forward and have had genuine sexual harassment, right? Like stuff like this
Or
is
even DV, which like the book and movie were about.
Yes. I mean, this was such a missed opportunity for this film to really shine on its own merit and really be a vehicle for empathy for sufferers from domestic violence, for sure. And then to have, insult added to injury and have Blake set women back and falsely accuse, allegedly, Justin Baldoni of all of these things. It makes it so much harder for women who have experienced it to actually come forward. So I think it's personal for everyone who's experienced domestic violence and for any woman who's been harassed, for sure.
Did you guys speculate at all where you see this going? Because obviously you said earlier, like they want to go the distance. They want to go to trial. I mean, do you see like, obviously this gag order, they're trying to get this gag order in place, but did you speculate at all of like what you would imagine Lively and Reynolds' next move is, or Lively?
So we didn't, but I think this becomes so bad for her that I think they're going to, if I was sitting at the round table with them, I would say, you got to drop this lawsuit against Justin Baldoni. You got to settle your lawsuit with him as quickly as possible. And this needs to go away. Because the worst thing for Blake Lively is for this to actually go to trial and have the coverage that would happen, when it goes to trial, a la Johnny and Amber, right? Like if she has some huge televised trial, that could be so much worse than what's even happening now.
Oh God. If they do, make it pay-per-view so they both at least financially benefit from it. But it is wild. I just think it is, for me,
what do you think? What do you think she should do?
So initially when I read the first round of things, when I thought it was an effort against Blake Lively, I really truly believed that. And I thought, I've heard so much about PR strategy and just really call these people on a rainy day to destroy somebody. I believe that exists. So I really thought that Baldoni and Wayfarer and the billionaire were in trouble because I thought you could prove damages to her hair care line and her alcohol brand. I thought you could prove damages. I've completely changed in a sense, but at the same time, I'm scared to say what I think is next because I feel like 10 more things are going to drop. I feel like this story is going to keep, when egos are involved, and I mean both of them, Baldoni and Lively and Wave, I mean every ego's involved. Just think about it like Housewives. Lisa Barlow doubles and triples down all the time. These people are used to doubling and tripling down. They are gambling at the highest level. So I think it's stupid if Lively and Reynolds don't consider dropping all of this and settling, but
Yeah, you're so right.
I think they might keep going. I think it might be overall even worse for them, but you just don't know what they have in their arsenal.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think that with these kind of massive egos involved, the last thing they want to do is raise the white flag and admit surrender. If anything, they are just going to they're going to dig their heels in more. And it's a very Lisa Barlow strategy, as you said. And I think that, speaks to some poor character, which we've certainly seen from Baby Gorgeous.
By the way, did you like the Salt Lake reunion last night? Did you watch it?
I have not seen it yet. I've just been so steeped in Baldoni.
Oh my God, I know. By the way, I had to get my mind off Baldoni and Lively for 3 weeks, and now I'm kind of back in it, and it's horrifying. I had to take aspirin before talking to you because there's just so much. There's so much work involved, and it really is. I credit Brian Friedman and his team. It is very highly digestible if you're looking to enter into reading law documents. This is a great one to start off with. It's very trashy, it's very pulpy, and it's a page. You'll burn through this thing very quickly. But it's weird because I think, Lauren, the thing is, I grew up loving movies and loving stories. And as I got older, I loved behind the scenes and pop culture. I just think there is something really damaging. I love it personally to know behind the scenes stuff at this level, but I think it's overall damaging for just stories and movies themselves because it just shows how much bullshit is involved. And it's hard to then be swept away into a good story because you know how much BS is going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think that the error you might be making there, if I can just say
I
this.
make them all the time, yes.
Yeah. No, it's just that, and I do this too, but it's assuming that everyone is as mired in this as we are and wants to, read a 200-page lawsuit. And I think
it's just that we have a sickness. We have a mental disorder, and that's what's wrong with us. So that could our
careers. We made our problem. Yeah, our career. Exactly. And so I don't think that this will take people out of make people not be able to suspend their disbelief and take people out of the movie magic. I think that the show will go on. Yeah. And I think that I will say this, if you don't want to read all 200 pages, you can listen to our 2-hour episode where we break it all down.
It is great because they don't, they hit all of the key points. They read the texts and the emails. It is such a gargantuan task. Do you still plan on, because I know you release one episode a week right now, correct?
We have one episode that's free and one premium episode.
Okay, so will you continue to follow you've got to continue to follow the story, right? If you put this much work into it.
Oh yeah. I mean, we're gonna go the distance on this. Okay. We're not going to stop at any point. So until it's over.
Your episode just got released 2 days ago or yesterday, I think. And what has the feedback been? It is wild how this is. It's wild just to see this, but you see it a lot with pop culture of, there's hate for one side, and then the pendulum swings and it completely changes, like we've seen to Lively to Baldoni. What has your fan base or what has the reactions been? Have they been split down the middle or also just mainly pro Baldoni?
Well, I will say, a lot of podcasters are talking about this right now, but there are very few who are actually going through all of it and presenting all the information. And so people, I think, are grateful to have a single source to have it explained. But then I will say it's about 95% Team Justin. So it's very strong, not Team Blake.
I've noticed that in terms of the podcasting and social media space, is that very few people get into the actual facts and the detail, it's so detailed and people are just looking for the clickbait and they're I'll tell you what's crazy. And then you're I just got one little piece of information. You guys break down the whole thing, which I think is so helpful. And just,
thank you.
It really is fascinating. Do you think, how does Taylor Swift handle this? She completed the Eras Tour. We're coming up on Super Bowl. She should just be enjoying the Chiefs games in her box seat with her cranberry vodka. Do we expect, how will Taylor Swift do you think this is, do you think she's plugged in this way where she understands the gravity of this?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I think that Taylor Swift is so annoyed that she's being pulled into this. It's not good. It's not good for Taylor's PR to be perceived as a big bully and threat and being referenced by your friend as her beautiful monster / dragon. Tree Payne is losing sleep.
By the way,
So
Tree Payne is Taylor Swift's publicist, and she's amazing. Tree, if you're listening, we love you.
I love you.
Loved all the 2 times I saw the Eras tour. Love you, but she keeps a tight lid on things. I mean, I wonder what Tree Payne would have done with this, and what advice she would have given these people.
It's a really good question. I will say that when it comes to Taylor, there was the rumor that, or it was a blind item that got put up, that apparently Blake wanted to go to the Chiefs game last weekend, but Taylor said no. So I think we'll see some public distancing between Taylor and Blake.
Do you believe that? Do you believe Blake said, "Let me go to the Chiefs game with you"? And
I really do. I really do.
well, that's what sucks about celebrity, because one day you're up, next day you're down. But, a year ago or whenever, Taylor, showing up with Blake at a restaurant, or showing up with Joe Jonas's ex. I'm blanking on her name right now. Like, she was like that, like, photographed with Taylor to like provide emotional and pop culture support. And you want her to be that trusted space, and not somebody that aligns with somebody that did something wrong potentially.
Exactly. And if Taylor steps out with Blake right now, I think that it's a public statement that, yes, I am, her beautiful monster. I am her dragon. Here I am in support of her. So I think she has to stay far away.
Flames on her body and just, I am the dragon. Yes.
Completely. Like, they might as well have Blake in a Khaleesi costume if they're going to step out together, because it would be such a statement. So I think we won't see them together for quite a while.
So Blake Lively has a project that is done. It's called A Simple Favor Part 2. There was a first movie with her and Anna Kendrick, and Paul Feig directed it, the director of Bridesmaids, and they already completed work on the sequel. And there's a lot of rumors being speculated if this movie will ever see the light of day now because of this situation.
No way.
Yeah.
So interesting.
I mean,
I would
Amazon
think they would want to just
this.
put it out.
Well, and by the way, if you haven't done it, A Simple Favor is a really fun movie. It's well done, great performances by both leads, and I thought was just really great. So it just got to be frustrating for Paul Feig, who actually stood up for Blake Lively as well. I mean, these are people spending years of their lives working on something, and then one false move in the public eye can completely destroy the profile financially for these projects.
Yeah, in a way, actually, the life of an actor is so precarious. It's not only one false move, but one really a performance that is not good, or a box office flop, and all of a sudden your career can be in the gutter. It's a very precarious, line they walk.
Well, that's why Demi Moore getting the nomination for The Substance today at the Oscars, her winning at the Golden Globes and giving this speech reminding people that she's been here for 4 decades. She's part of the fabric of Hollywood and has never nominated or won an award. And you're like, how is that possible? But it was true. And it just shows you how insecure the life of an actor or performing artist is. There is so much insecurity. And you see that with Blake on these emails. And you also see it with Justin a little bit as well. So it's going to be terrifying to see where this heads in 2025. I guess just real quickly, what else are you loving right now? Not that you're loving Baldoni Lively, but in terms of pop culture, are there things that have excited you so far in 2025?
Yeah, I will say we were so excited for With Love Megan to debut. So Chandler and I are obsessed with Meghan Markle. We find her to be beguiling, frustrating, cringy, but also gorgeous, and we can't keep our eyes off her. I feel like we have a very nuanced Meghan Markle vibe. And anyway, we could not wait for the Netflix show, because that was kind of the content we had been dying for from Meghan. So we were really sad. I mean, obviously we're really sad about the fires, mostly sad about that, but then also devastated that.
I mean, 2 things can be devastating at once. 2 things can do that. Yeah.
Too true. And we were really sad that the show got pushed back 6 weeks, but that is coming in March. We're going to be recapping, I think, every episode. We cannot wait for
And
that.
It's a lifestyle show, right?
Yeah, it's a cooking show. So it's just going to feature her making food with various famous people and looking beautiful, which for me is like exactly what I want to watch. So I can't wait.
But by the way, you just said it again, is that like PR nightmares? All of a sudden these fires break out, and all of this time and energy put on this project that was going to make Meghan Markle look great, because it's probably really good and might, people have such strong opinions on her. This would be excellent. So you do have to pull it out of respect for these fires, but also if she had released it, she would have had so many think pieces about her directly saying that she's a monster.
Mm-hmm. No, they absolutely did the right thing, right? Like she couldn't promote it during the fires, and I'm sure there's a ton of material they want to put out to promote it. So they absolutely did the right thing by punting it for sure.
And in terms of Pop Apologists, you're with Podcast One right now. I'll put all that information up there. What I will say, and I said this, I just have to compliment your video team that does your clips and I was watching it on video on Spotify, and it's just beautiful. Your lighting is so next level that it makes me never want to podcast again. And I started this as an audio thing, and you guys piss me off so much when you release these beautiful video clips. So like, congrats to your team, because I think you have one of the most beautiful looking podcasts out there.
Oh my gosh. Well, we're very vain. And so I think that's part of it, is we just want to look pretty. And so it's actually just it's a personal preference that it look good. But no, I really appreciate that. I think that podcasting is funny. I loved the beginning of podcasting when it was just audio,
I know.
But it's turned into a YouTube game. You have to be on video. So
shout out Scott. We see you.
Exactly. Shout out Scott, our producer.
But that's the thing too, is that there's so much work that goes into these podcasts, believe it or not. And even, you were talking about the outline you guys were working off of for the Lively Baldoni. And I was thinking this especially the Lively Baldoni is, would you ever would you still trade? Do you think Blake Lively is aspirational at this point? In any way, would you want to trade your world for hers?
I would love to trade my bank account for hers for sure.
But your day to day, that much, going through what she's going through now, even in those emails, I was so exhausted. Just have even Baldoni, I was like, I don't even want to be Baldoni. It just seems exhausting.
No, I think people that are orbiting in that specific place, or that inhabit that kind of orbit, they have a lot of stress, right? And they have so many demands, and it's not enough that they're an A-list actress. I use quote around that because some people are disputing that, but it's not enough that they're worth hundreds of millions of dollars and A-list celebrities and yada, yada, yada. It's well, what if my version of the rooftop scene is not validated by my director? Now I'm going to cry. I think that these people, their requirements for satisfaction in life are potentially much higher than mine. So no, I would not want to. I would not want to trade psyches with Blake Lively at all.
Oh my God, it seems miserable.
Ryan, I do have to tell you though, thank you for gassing up our pod. I have to gas you up for a second, because I cannot even imagine. You are so. I was going to say profluent, but that's not the right word. That's a different word. You're
long-winded.
You're so prolific. I can't imagine doing an episode every day, and then you also go on SiriusXM.
Lord, I'm near death right now. And by the way, that's what that's kind of one of the things for 2025 is trying to slow down. But I will say there's just so many exciting things that you want to talk about. You're oh, I watched The Traitors. I want to talk about that. I love Lively Baldoni. I need to get back into that. And I always feel like I'm just in a race against the clock at this point, because I started at an older age. And so there's all of this there's all of my psyche that goes into this. But don't you love it? Don't you love it?
No, I absolutely love it. It's the best.
You guys seem like you love it like I do. I love it.
No, I think that we're obsessed with podcasting. We would do it even if it wasn't our job.
By the way, we did it when it wasn't our job. We both did it when we didn't make anything from this.
Yeah, we were at it for 4 years before things really started to move for us.
Shout out Kate Middleton. Yeah. Shout out.
Thank you, Kay Middleton. Sorry again. But yeah, so it really is. It's such a fun thing to get to do. And it's just so exciting to be able to have these conversations, these relationships, and the relationships with our listeners. Because honestly, those parasocial relationships, they feel real to me. I do love my listeners, or our listeners, and I know that they love us. So it is really fun.
It is that you nailed it completely. And it was I got texted of have Lauren on. I'm like, hell yeah. You get excited for those things because you're oh, I get to have this conversation. That's exciting to me. And you then get to have people listen to it and they get something from it. So thumbs up on podcasting from both of us, but a huge thumbs up for Pop Apologists. They don't need it, but I'm going to tell you once again, go subscribe to this podcast if you haven't already. Go rate it 5 stars on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Go follow them on Instagram. And I think you guys are just going to keep getting bigger and bigger. So remember me when, and hopefully I'll talk to you again in 2025 at some point.
No, Brian, we have to have you on our show.
Oh,
So let me know
anytime.
if there's
No
something
brainer.
you want to, sink your teeth into on Pop Apologists. Would love to have you on. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, everyone, our episode on Blake and Justin is episode 257, going through his lawsuit. If you want to check it out, thank you so
It's
much, Ryan.
really, really good, you guys. And you can watch on video or just listen on audio. We will talk to
Great.
you next time.
Thanks, Ryan. Bye.